Okay, so my name is David Whale. You can find me on various places. Actually, if you just type in Whaley Geek into Google, I'm on about the first 26 pages of Google now, funnily enough. I was looking last night, it's quite scary. Mike, thanks for organising these lightning talks. It's just an opportunity to quickly blast through some ideas and experiences. So I do quite a lot of work in Raspberry Pi clubs, and there's quite a collection of our Raspberry Pi club here that we're going to do a bit of presentation later on. And I'm just going to run through about 10 points of things that we've discovered along the way, some interesting insights. So the first thing that we decided to do was to do some simple Python programs. And the very first Raspberry Pi club I set up, I didn't know what to do, and I hadn't actually done any Python programming before, and thought, what should I do? And I looked around on the internet, and there's this guy called Alan O'Donoghue, techno teacher, and he's a teacher in a secondary school up in Preston, and he was doing some exercises with children, getting them to write tiny little Python programs, just to say, what is your name, how old are you, how old you'll be next year. And I started with that. And the great thing about the internet is there's so many resources out there. And the bad thing about the internet is there's so many resources out there. So sometimes it takes a bit of time to find something that you're happy with. So we started to do some very simple Python programs. And I believe it was Andrew that said to me, I'm not a Python programmer. I keep getting these kids coming to me saying, what's this syntax error mean? And where do I put the colons? So I haven't got them with me today, but I made some cards about this size, Python flashcards, with Andrew in mind, which are basically 20 little snippets of programs of how to do a print statement, how to input, how to do if statements. And they were designed to be top pocket size, because Andrew's always got a top pocket. And actually the children have started to use them as well. I put them on my blog, and I think after one event I had about, I think it was over 800 downloads in a couple of days. So they're really good, but what we try to do is to get the children to learn the basics of Python first. How to do loops, how to do if statements, how to do prints, how to do very simple conditions, and then we get into various projects. So one of the things that we had quite a lot of success with in the early days is writing games. Everyone, if you are under 18 and you like playing games, put your hand up. That's every single under 18-year-old in the audience. Good, there you go. So that's a good win. So some of the games that the children wrote in our clubs were a Pong game. So you had the two paddles and you move them up and down, and we did it in Pi game, and a bouncing ball. So you have some very interesting maths to do with the angles and the X and Y coordinates. Jamie, who unfortunately can't be here today, he wrote a Space Invaders. And then he went on to make one of the world's smallest Raspberry Pis called PortaPi and put his Space Invaders inside that. Joseph, I remember we did a dice game, didn't we? So it was seven LEDs in a breadboard powered by the very first board that came out, which was the Gert board. And I think the very first time we tried it, it ended up being a loaded dice. It always finished on 6, didn't it? So we had some work to do with the random number generation. One of the discoveries was how far you can go with just flashing an LED. So you may remember this, you came to our Harlow Jam, didn't you? And we had a competition which was basically a quiz, and I'd graded the quiz with 10 questions that I knew that people like Michael and all the other people attending would know the answer. So one of the questions was, what is the resolution of the new Raspberry Pi camera? And I knew that Michael would know the answer because he was one of the first users of the Raspberry Pi camera, weren't you? So it was a reason for children to go around and talk to the adults and get ideas. And it was Jamie from our club that won the Raspberry Pi, and in it we put a few components. There was an LED and a switch in there. And he came along to our Saturday club and did a little program that flashed an LED and said, oh, that's okay, what do I do next? And then I think Kyle is here. Kyle is our programmer buddy. Kyle and Jamie spent, I think, was it 4 hours? And you used every single bit of Python that was on the flashcards and made this fantastic flashing LED game. The flashed an LED a random number of times and said, how many times did it flash? You put in 3. He said, yes, that's right. And then it flashed it more times and quicker. And it was so hard that at the end it was like a blink and you had to guess how many times it flashed. And we were all playing the game, basically. It was like a competitive game. So how far can you go with flashing an LED? It's limited by your imagination. So whatever you can do with it. So it leads on to my next point, which is doing GPIO, general purpose I/O. So linking up to bits of electronics. The flashy LED game. Murat has got a game that he's written which is fastest button press, and it's on one of the Syntec Pibrellas. And the idea is you have the traffic lights go red, amber, green, and you have to press the button as fast as possible, many times as possible in, I think it's 30 seconds. And then there's like a high score table. So it's just with some LEDs in the button, but it's quite an engaging game. Ryan, who sometimes presents at these jams, has given us various motor controller boards and things which we solder together, and Murat is building the robot kit at the moment for us. We've done some work with 7 displays, and as I said, we did things with dice. So if you can read a switch or flash an LED, there's all sorts of things you can build. In some of the schools, we've had quite a lot of success using the Python turtle. Now, with a single line inside Python, you say from turtle import star, you now have this little dot that you can move around on the screen. You can say forward, and it moves forward, and right, and it turns right. And you can draw any shape you like. And I've managed to I did run a 3-hour workshop on learning Python, using Python Turtle, and the kids were completely engaged through the whole of the 3 hours. We got through a lot of programming tasks. Card number 6, buy Miss Philbin's book. So if anyone knows Carrie Ann Philbin, she wrote a book, Adventures in Raspberry Pi. This has been a really good book. It's got 9 fantastic projects in it you can make with the Raspberry Pi. And you can almost treat each project as like a worksheet that you can do over a couple of weeks, and some very exciting things that you can do. One of the things she covers in that is a package called Sonic Pi, and Sonic Pi is it's an environment where you learn to program by making music. So you say play, and you give it a number, and it plays that note. You put a loop around it, and it plays the note repeatedly. And you can change the program while it's playing the sound, and you can actually invent your own music, but you don't realise you're learning programming as you're doing it. That's very, very exciting. Minecraft. Put your hands up if you like Minecraft. Okay, I can see lots of double hands going up. Minecraft is fantastic, and the reason Minecraft is fantastic, it's so creative, it's a great game to play. But it also comes with a programming interface. So if you've just done the Minecraft workshop, you probably already know this. You need to know 4 things: get pos, set pos, get block, and set block. If you can do those 4 things, you can invent anything. And then you can turn your gaming into programming. So you can build you can build a house, and then you can say, I want more than those, put a loop around it, you've got a street of houses. Very, very quick and easy to build things. TidyPi. Andrew will be talking in a moment about TidyPi. It's basically a system he's designed for use in schools, so you can say, we want to run a Raspberry Pi club, we don't know which room we're going to go in, let's go in lab 7, and you're set up within about 30 seconds. So Andrew will talk about that later. My message for everyone is just innovate, just come up with ideas, do some awesome projects, and I've listed down some awesome projects here. Joseph is going to be showing off his robot arm project next. Jamie unfortunately isn't here, but he did the Porta Pi, which was building a Raspberry Pi and a battery into a tiny box with a little screen. Kyle has done an Etch-a-Sketch program using 2pots and Pygame. That's quite good. That's on show on the show and tell. He's also done an LED clock, so it shows you the real time on some 7 LED displays. We've got some NeoPixels, these fantastic bright LEDs that you can write to. We've got those working in Raspberry Pi. And I believe, Murat, have you brought your on-screen robot simulator today? That's quite a good program to look at. Things to do with children. Take them to jams. So one of the things I like about Raspberry Jams is it gives us a reason to go into clubs and say, there's a Raspberry Jam coming up in 3 weeks' time, let's get that project finished, and then you can show it off at the show and tell. So it gives us focus in the clubs to, reason for completing things. And there's a whole host of ideas that come from these Raspberry Jams. Enter competitions. So we entered some competitions. Stewards Academy won 3 awards this week. Big round of applause for Stewards Academy. So 2 of the projects won a Student Choice Award. That was the Robot Arm and the Porta Pi. And the Raspberry Pi Club won won an award as well. But again, entering for competitions is a good way to give you focus and say, let's actually work towards something. It's just not just sit there and mess around with wires and switches and programs. Let's aim for something. There's a Raspberry Pi club that I run every Saturday morning. I'm not there today, obviously, but it's 10 to 12 in Harlow Leisure Zone, and there's a centre called Science Alive. and a lot of our kids come to the club as well. So if you're in Harlow any Saturday morning, do drop in. We've got 5 pie kits, so even if you don't have a Raspberry Pi, you can come along and just get some ideas and and do that. I'm Whaley Geek on Twitter, and I believe it's Josie that's going to talk next about the Robot Arm project, and Andrew will talk about the Tidy Pie project. Thank you very much. That's the end of my lightning talk. Is that lightning enough?